Venus, Earth's evil twin, and the planet that should scare us awake. Look up on a clear evening in America, and you'll probably mistake Venus for a celebrity. Dazzling, steady, impossible to ignore. It's the brightest star you can see without a telescope, so bright it can cast faint shadows in the right conditions. For centuries, people treated it like a symbol of love and beauty. Venus has been lying to us, because behind that pearl-white glow is a world that reads like a science fiction horror script, except it's real, it's nearby, and it might be the most important warning label in the solar system. If Earth is a home, Mars is a hope, then Venus is the quiet nightmare. The twin that tries to kill you. Venus is often called Earth's twin, similar in size, similar in mass, similar enough that if you only saw the numbers on a chart, you'd expect oceans, clouds, and maybe something like weather forecasts. But step onto Venus, if you could, and you wouldn't just die, you'd be erased. The surface temperature sits around 465 degrees Celsius, about 870 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to melt lead. Not soften it, not warp it, melt it. Anything built by humans would last minutes before the heat starts winning. Here's the twist that surprises almost everyone. Venus is hotter than Mercury, even though Mercury is closer to the Sun. This is the planet's first magic trick. It isn't distance that decides the heat, it's the atmosphere. Imagine the pressure at the bottom of a deep ocean trench. Now imagine that pressure in the open air. On Venus, the atmospheric pressure at the surface is about 92 times Earth's, like standing roughly a kilometer over half a mile underwater. Your body wouldn't just struggle to breathe, it would be crushed by the sheer weight of the air. And the air isn't air the way we mean it. Venus is wrapped in an enormous CO2 blanket, a thick, suffocating comforter that traps heat and refuses to let it go. This is the greenhouse effect turned into a planetary prison. The greenhouse trap, how a planet becomes an oven. Earth's greenhouse effect is like glass in a greenhouse. It lets sunlight in, then slows the escape of heat so the planet stays livable. On Venus, that mechanism appears to have spiraled out of control. Picture a thermostat that breaks and keeps clicking upward. The planet becomes hotter, which helps it hold more heat, which makes it hotter, you get the idea. Many scientists suspect Venus may have once been more Earth-like, possibly with water and a milder climate, before the fall era. But once the warming crossed certain thresholds, water vapor, itself a greenhouse gas, could have amplified the heating even further. Over time, Venus transformed into a world where the surface is effectively sealed inside a pressure cooker. It's one of the most haunting what-if stories in planetary science, not because it's fantasy, but because it suggests how fragile a habitable world can be. Acid clouds and rain that never reaches the ground. Now look up, except you can't really. Venus has no blue sky. In fact, from the surface, you wouldn't see much at all. The atmosphere is so thick and the cloud layers so heavy that the sun would appear only as a blurred, pale smear. No crisp shadows, no sparkling stars at night, just a dim glow through an endless ceiling. And that ceiling is made of something straight out of chemistry class, clouds of sulfuric acid. Yes, acid. Venus even has something that sounds oddly familiar, rain. But it's acid rain, and it doesn't splash on the ground. It evaporates mid-air before it ever reaches the surface, destroyed by the brutal heat below. It's like the planet is trying to have weather, but the surface is too hellish to permit it. Cracked ground, red-hot rock, and giant volcanoes. If you could see the landscape clearly, it wouldn't look like a gentle twin of Earth. Venus is a world of fractured plains, shattered terrain, and enormous volcanic structures, some so large they make Earth's biggest volcanoes look modest. The ground is often described as baked, broken, and hostile, rock that has been cooked for millions of years. There's evidence that Venus has been volcanically active in geologically recent times, and the planet's surface has the vibe of a world that keeps resurfacing itself, like it can't stop rewriting its own face. Hollywood could have a field day here. Imagine a camera drifting in orbit above Venus, watching the cloud deck twist and curl like a planetary whirlpool. Then, cut to the surface, a glowing, cracked landscape under a dim, sour sky. No ocean, no breeze you'd want, just heat pressing down from every direction. The weirdest day in the solar system. Now for the part that sounds like someone messed up the script. Venus spins painfully slowly. One full rotation takes so long that a day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Read that again. The planet takes longer to turn once than it takes to orbit the sun. And it gets stranger. Venus rotates backward compared to most planets. If you stood on the surface and watched the blurry sun crawl through the haze, it would rise in the west and set in the east. The sky itself would feel wrong, like nature's compass had been flipped. But the biggest cinematic contradiction of all is this. Even though the planet spins slowly, the upper atmosphere does not. High above the surface, winds race at hundreds of kilometers per hour, whipping the cloud tops around the planet in a phenomenon called atmospheric superrotation. It's as if the planet's air is impatient with the planet beneath it, circling Venus like a global storm system that never ends. Slow world, fast sky, a planet that can't decide what time it is. The Soviet landers that survived minutes, and that was an accomplishment. We've actually touched Venus. Briefly. Decades ago, Soviet landers managed to reach the surface and send back data. Their lifespan reads like a dare, minutes to around an hour depending on the mission. On Earth, we'd call that a failure. On Venus, it's an accomplishment worthy of a medal. Because landing on Venus is like dropping a robot into a furnace under the pressure of the deep sea inside an acid sky world. The fact that anything worked at all is a reminder of both Venus's brutality and human ingenuity. The wildest question: could anything live there? If Venus is so lethal, why do scientists still whisper an almost mischievous question? Because the clouds are different. High in the atmosphere, far above the crushing pressure and scorching surface, temperatures and pressures can become more Earth-like. It's still a harsh environment, still chemically aggressive, but it's not the instant death zone of the ground. That's why one of the most provocative ideas in planetary science lingers. Could microbial life exist in Venus's clouds? Not cities, not animals, just tiny organisms adapted to a strange aerial niche, life as floating chemistry. No one has proven it, no one can promise it. But the question itself is powerful because it flips our assumptions. Venus may be an inferno below, yet still offer pockets of possibility above. And that's part of why Venus remains irresistible. Venus isn't just a planet, it's a mirror. When we talk about Venus, we're not only describing a neighbor, we're studying a cautionary tale with a bright smile. It's Earth's twin that went wrong. The planet that teaches us hottest doesn't mean closest. A world where CO2 becomes a thermal trap. Where acid clouds hide the sky. Where rain vanishes before it hits the ground. Where a day lasts longer than a year and sunrise comes from the west. Where the air runs wild even while the planet barely turns. Venus is beautiful from a distance, almost seductively so. But up close, it's the solar system's most dramatic reminder that planets don't stay friendly just because they start out familiar. So the next time you spot that bright evening star hanging over an American skyline, let the beauty hit first. Then remember what it's really saying. Some futures glow right before they burn.